So, Jim and Brian, it's great to talk to you both. Jim, you've been a part of these conversations a few times now, but Brian, our listeners haven't had a chance to meet you yet and get a sense of what it is that you do. So, please introduce yourself to everybody.
What do I do? A little bit of everything. Um, yeah, from establishing procedures with customers and with new services. That's important to hiring and training. And from there, once drivers learn the job, to me, my role, I see it as a support person. Where drivers can feel comfortable coming. For me to answer questions. Um, and how to improve. Like honestly, the best feedback that I get is from the drivers, and best ideas I get is from the drivers themselves.
I'm really excited that you're on this call. Both of you are on this call because I think that you are coming at this topic from a couple really different perspectives. Today, we're talking about something that is seemingly simple on the surface, but is actually very foundational to how our entire operation works, and that's communications and notifications. My hope in this conversation today is that we'll be able to break down how we've built this aspect of our business out, and how it's beneficial to our customers and the patients that ultimately they serve. I want to start with the idea that communications is not a new idea, and it's really built into our business. So, Jim, you've been at Am-Tran for a long time. Can you speak to to its sort of foundational role?
Yeah, absolutely. We are in the customized logistics business here, which means we've got to be able to tailor our offerings to exactly what our customers need. And when you're delivering things like medical specimens or pharmacy products, timing is of the essence. And sometimes just getting an email isn't enough. You need to be able to speak to somebody to clarify perhaps what the specimen type is, or what the medication type is, or when something is coming or going, etc. And so the ability to communicate with a real person, pretty much on demand, is the base level of service that we offer.
And I feel like nowadays being able to talk to a person 24/7, 365 days is a real anomaly. So I can see why it's so beneficial, right?
Yeah, I don't mean to just jump right in, but you're absolutely right. And we're in a world where more and more is being pushed to automated responses. And I get it. There is a time and a place for an automated response, but when things are really time critical, it's very reassuring to be able just to talk to a real person.
Yeah. And we'll touch on all the efforts that Amtran's making to automate their comms to make it easier for customers and for patients to know when and where their packages are. But I think that's a really critical point to hit home. And so, Brian, you interface more with the day-to-day operations. Can you speak to like the value that live contact has for you, for drivers, but really for the customers too?
Yeah, when I do the client visits, typically the feedback is very positive, and it's very satisfying to see when they have questions, when they need help, they can reach out to people that understand what their service is, and to me that's extremely valuable.
Yeah. Just anecdotally, I was shadowing Brian for a day a couple weeks ago, and he's in constant communication with dispatch and with the drivers and with the customers as well, popping in, answering questions, letting people know where things are. And so it's obviously a complex web of communications, but there's always somebody on the line responding and making sure things are moving smoothly. That was really impressive for me to see.
Yeah.
So, communications is so important in any line of work, but I think in the medical courier space where we operate, it's arguably all the more so. So I want to dive into that a little bit more. The first thing that comes to mind to me about why communications is so important in this sector specifically is because we're dealing with teams of people operating in different departments or different stages of uh, a process, a chain of custody, and having a clear understanding of where something is or when it will be there is all the more important. So, Jim, can you start off speaking a little bit to that?
Yeah, you just have to imagine that the things that we are carrying come from a group of people who are organized to get us our things at a particular time, and then there is a group of people that are waiting for it, that have their schedules depend on our timely arrival. And if something goes haywire along the way, our ability to communicate with them and tell them, hey, this is what's going on, it's essentially allows them um, to prepare for our deliveries.
Bryan, is there any example that comes to mind for you of of how communications has supported a tight handoff or something of that nature?
Um, yeah, a few comes to mind where some drivers and clients, they also gave us feedback. They love the notifications. Some drivers, they said, this is really cool. When I was about arriving, they were already waiting for me, and it make it so much easier, to continue to the next job.
Right. If you're on a tight deadline, I can imagine it's helpful that somebody knows you're going to be there.
Right.
So the other drilling down a little bit further into the importance of this in this industry, the other thing that comes to mind for me is at-home deliveries. I was hoping that you two could speak to how our communications stays consistent or adjusts accordingly when we're dealing directly with patients on behalf of pharmacies or other healthcare providers to get important medications or hospice treatment items, infusions to people's homes.
I think the thing that we can never forget about the home deliveries that we're making is that these are really difficult times for the patients that are receiving this medication. There's a lot of stress, there's a lot of worry, and anything that we can do to alleviate that it just improves the whole experience for everyone. Being able to be more predictable, to be kind and empathetic when we make that delivery, to really understand what's going on at that home from an emotional level, can give people a moment of comfort during their day.
Bryan, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think these started providing an additional layer of confidence that their item was delivered. And then we kind of took it to the next level once we were able to implement notifications for patients to be alerted when the driver is going to arrive as a next stop. So they can plan their day, with ETAs. They can make a decision whether to go to an appointment or stay home. And I think this was very, very interesting to see how unfolded.
What I can add to that is that the notification includes a picture of the driver. It includes where they are at that particular point in time, so that the recipient can estimate for themselves how far away the driver is, so that at that actual point of delivery, everybody's really connected. So that oftentimes, when the driver gets to the front door, the person's right there to open the door before the driver even needs to knock, which is a really helpful feature in all of this. Again, getting back to this, the sense of predictability and security and comfort with the whole experience.
I'm glad that you both brought up the notifications because that was where I wanted to go next. So you both have alluded to it, but for context, Am-Tran invested a lot of time and energy in the last couple of years to build out their notification system so that customers and patients could see where a delivery was en route. And so to Brian's point, it's just that increased level of transparency has allowed customers to better plan their days, to be prepared, better prepared when a driver is arriving, and to Jim's point, to know who the driver is, giving an additional sense of security. So I think it's certainly made a big impact on the customer experience, and I have to imagine it's also had a lot of benefit from an efficiency standpoint operationally for Am-Tran too. Can you, Brian or Jim, speak to maybe the efficiency side of things when it comes to notifications? Like something that comes to mind for me is probably it's leading to fewer phone calls to dispatch so that dispatch can then deal with other matters.
Right. If I can speak on that one, we've seen a decrease on calls for patients and clients asking for ETAs, and that was beneficial to us. Alleviate the burden on dispatch.
Certainly, we are thinking about the end recipient. But Brian touched on something that's really important that goes on behind the scenes is that there's often many people involved in the process, whether it's a hospice company talking to a pharmacy, and the pharmacy talking to the driver, and being able to receive these notifications in the background where each of the people in the process can essentially click through and see where any given delivery is really advantageous when it comes to building efficiency. Granted, I don't want to get away from the fact that if somebody needs to speak to a live person, they can, but the ability to simply go online, track that delivery, confirm its location, confirm that ETA, confirm the POD along with pictures and signatures and all of that sort of thing is really helpful for everybody in the process.
Yeah, I think we're talking about medical work specifically too, and the chain of custody is really important for compliance too. So just having another level of documentation on things through the notification system is helps customers protect themselves and whatnot.
I think we're clear on the benefits for the pharmaceutical part of the delivery, but I would also like to mention, and not less important, that oftentimes we deliver to processing facilities. And when there's more than one operator involved, this translates into money, for them, because they can be alerted, when the driver will arrive, and it allows them to plan their schedule as well. So I think the benefit goes all across the board, not just pharmaceutical. Part of our customized service, it allows us to explore these ideas and benefits. And the one thing in common and nothing happens is like they're satisfied, and they want to be alerted. We don't want to flood their phones and emails with high volume of notifications. It really depends on the service that is designed and according to their needs. But in generally speaking, we can say that they find it valuable.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. In this conversation, we've sort of touched on how the notifications work. I have a sort of breakdown on it.
From the first notification, there's a link, and the client, they can track where the driver is. And actually, for the on-demand side of the business, clients, they get alerted when the driver has been assigned. So that also provides confidence when they call for a job, maybe a minute or 2 minutes later, the driver has been assigned and they see a picture of who that driver is.
And then from there, what happens?
A notification is going out when a driver picks up a specimen or a pharmacy product, and that notification gives the recipient a window of time that they can expect this delivery to be made. And then at the point in time when it is the next delivery on the driver's schedule, they're given a second notification that says, hey, you're next up. You can expect the driver at this point in time. And along with that notification is a link that enables them to see a picture of the driver, to see where that driver is in real time, just like Uber, and give them a very accurate sense of when that driver is going to show up.
It's really cool. I think that it's important to be implementing these technologies, but not just for the sake of it, done with a lot of intention. So I think that's very evident here. I think also customers, businesses, they expect this degree of transparency. And so again, it's just really important to be implementing notification systems and fine-tuning them so you're not flooding people's phones and inboxes with more information than they need, like you said, Bryan. But I think that going back to the start of this conversation, it's there's still that person. There's still dispatch available 24 hours a day to answer a question, take an order, or let you know where somebody or something is at a moment's notice. So together they make a very strong resource for customers and their patients. Would you both agree with that?
Yeah, I think
Yes,
that's that.
yes, and now that you speak about research, some facilities they send out multiple orders at the same time, and it might not be their preference to get a notification for each one. They still have access in their portal for all the orders and to see the status of those orders as well from the client portal. Maybe not so relevant to notifications, so but that option is available.
I think
Yeah,
it's
not relevant
relevant.
to notifications, but it's certainly relevant to communication.
Correct.
Right. I think we're talking about information and having as much information as possible, and we've really refined what information we're sharing that customers have deemed most useful, but at the end of the day, you can have all the information you need.
Yeah, I can't really say names of some of the clients, but there are clients that they place 50 orders on demand, and they might not want notifications for each one of them. And based on our history and the partnership that we develop, there's a good level of confidence that everything is taken care of. However, instead of sending an email and waiting for that email to be replied, or if they don't feel like waiting on the phone with dispatch, they can easily access on their client portal to see the status of their order, and I think that's also beneficial as far as communication.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. And we're working diligently to try to make access to that information as easy as possible.
We touched on it a minute ago, or I touched on it, this idea that notifications are ubiquitous amongst all carriers, UPS, FedEx, Amazon, everybody's sending notifications to customers. But I feel like the level of detail that's available in our notification system takes things a step further. I was wondering if either of you would be open to talking about that, or if either of you had something to say to that effect.
I volunteer on that one. I and sorry, I'm always thinking, um,
No, it's great.
but yeah, what I like to say on that is that rather than doing what everyone else is trying to do, is just making sure that the experience is good, for the user, and whether it's the client or even the driver as well. So I think ultimately our goal is to give a good experience for our service.
I think that really touches on that not implementing tech for tech's sake concept that I was talking about earlier. Jim, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I don't think it's being disparaging at all as to what other people are doing, whether it's UPS or FedEx. um, they have a system that works just fine. It's the sensitivity of what we're delivering, the sensitivity both in terms of time and the nature of the product themselves that makes the necessity for a more detailed and personalized experience for that end user that much more important.
I think that's a perfect conclusion of a sorts to this conversation because we're talking about giving people a sense of security and a sense of peace of mind by always being available to talk about your order, about your account. And uh, what both of you have just touched on really hits that home. Is there anything else that either of you would want to add?
I think rather than, I mean, the technology and everything is great, but I think developing relationships, whether it's from the GM, dispatch manager, Alex, myself, even the confidence that the clients they feel with the drivers, knowing what they're doing, it's something that is really difficult to replicate. And as someone part of the team, I'm very proud of what we're doing out there.
I think that I don't think I can say it any better myself. We're able to provide a very personalized service at a pretty decent scale, which just provides a great benefit for everybody.
I couldn't agree more. Well, thank you both so much for taking the time to talk.
Thanks for putting it together, Laura.